Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Retirement is a major milestone, and the success of your retirement depends on having a portfolio that meets your needs today while addressing any future uncertainties. And the whole primary goal of your portfolio is to ensure that you have a retirement where you don't have a risk of running out of money. This is where a portfolio buffer comes in. A buffer acts as a safeguard, protecting your portfolio from market volatility, inflation, and really unexpected expenses. So today, I want to talk about how incorporating a buffer into your portfolio can give you confidence and security and really help you have a worry-free retirement. Well, at least from a financial standpoint. When working towards financial independence, most of us have a solid number in mind, and that number represents when we have enough invested to replace our income from our job. But something that often gets overlooked when we talk about our financial independence number is I feel like there's kind of an asterisk of sorts next to that number. If we consider something like the 4% rule, where you get to withdraw 4% of your portfolio on an annual basis and make an annual adjustment for inflation in subsequent years, this type of withdrawal strategy has a 98% success rate. And the vast majority of people who follow this type of strategy actually end up with a significantly larger portfolio later in life than what they started with in retirement. So that really does speak volumes to the success of this strategy. Using this rule, if your goal is to be able to withdraw $40,000 a year, we're going to ignore any sort of discussion about taxes for the sake of simplicity in this example. If you have a $1 million portfolio and follow the 4% rule, you would likely be able to successfully make your $40,000 withdrawal in retirement. And being that this portfolio has overwhelming odds of success, you can make the argument that once you hit this number, you're done. Why would I then want to talk about having an asterisk next to this number? Why would I want to talk about adding a buffer? The buffer represents an important safety net. Even with the statistical success of the 4% rule, many retirees share one big fear: the fear of running out of money. And this fear seems to remain even when intellectually individuals know they have enough money in investments to make it. Stepping away from a career and stepping away from a paycheck come with a great deal of uncertainty. Here we want to look at things from an emotional standpoint. When all the intellectual explanations and all the statistics don't bring peace of mind, we have to address the emotional side of things. And building a buffer into your portfolio can go a long way to giving you peace of mind. Buffers can vary in size: 10 to 15% for a conservative buffer, 20 to 25% for a moderate buffer, and 30 to 40% for an aggressive buffer. So if we have someone who is targeting that income of $40,000 a year with the goal of following the 4% rule as we discussed, their portfolio target would initially be $1 million. With a conservative buffer, this portfolio instead would look something like $1.15 million. With a moderate buffer built in, that portfolio would be closer to $1.25 million. And with an aggressive buffer, that portfolio would be closer to $1.4 million. Now, at first, you might be thinking, man, it took so long for me to hit my financial independence number. Now you want me to wait to step away from the workforce before I have a buffer built in? Well, the good news is once you have a substantial portfolio built up, hitting the next milestone is much easier because compounding works in an exponential fashion. Now, of course, we do have to add in that statement here that past performance is no guarantee of future results. But let's say the market returned 10%. And if you had $1 million invested, then if we have a 10% return in 1 year, you would end the year with $1.1 million invested. So leaving your money invested 1 year longer in this case would give you that conservative buffer of about 10%. Of course, that timeline and the market return are subject to variability because the market does not behave in a predictable fashion. But the whole point of this is that it should take substantially less time to build your buffer than it did to build your original portfolio. Now, as to why you might want a buffer, I think the very first and largest reason is emotional security. As I touched on earlier in the video, the fear of running out of money in retirement is a very real fear. And if building a buffer into your portfolio on top of your financial independence number helps to get rid of that fear of running out of money and brings greater emotional stability, I think emotional security in retirement is absolutely paramount. And that alone is reason enough to have a buffer. But beyond that, I do think that there are some logical reasons, beyond the emotional ones, to build a buffer into your portfolio. The market itself is unpredictable. If you retire into a market that is significantly down and still begin making withdrawals from your portfolio, you significantly increase the odds of depleting your portfolio over time. This is called sequence of returns risk. Having a portfolio buffer in place can really help you stomach and survive these market downturns. Better yet, you might want to have some extra cash on hand so you could actually avoid taking from your portfolio in a severely down market, and that can greatly increase the odds of your portfolio's success. But having a buffer certainly helps the situation. We can't control what the market does, and how the market performs in those initial years of your retirement can make or break your financial future. Let's say you had just eclipsed your financial independence number, and then you retire into a severely down market, and you still withdraw from your portfolio. Well, these withdrawals can be absolutely detrimental to the success of your portfolio in the long term, especially if you had no buffer built in. How long we are going to live is the big X factor. The goal is to have a long and healthy life, and over time, lifespans have increased. So it's very likely that you might live longer than expected, and hopefully they're healthy years. If they're not, they might come with significant healthcare and medical related expenses. But either way, having a more robust portfolio can help you weather a retirement that may easily last 20, 30, or even 40 years' time. Inflation is always working in the background, lessening the purchasing power of our dollars. We all know that $10,000 today is nothing like what $10,000 will be in 40 or 50 years' time. And on the average, over the long term, inflation is said to be about 2 to 3% on an annual basis. But inflation itself is a bit of an X factor. We're not guaranteed of what inflation will look like going forward. And having a more robust portfolio, one that has a buffer built in, can help mitigate any concerns you have around inflation. Yes, many of these withdrawal strategies do factor in inflation, but still, because that fear of running out of money tends to be so present in people's minds, I think it's better to have a little bit of a buffer built in so you can handle those times where inflation might be higher than expected. And at the end of the day, there's a really good chance that you might face some unexpected expenses during your retirement. Maybe these unexpected expenses are small. Maybe some of them are large. Hopefully, most of them are good, but some of them might be more of a nuisance. Maybe you have an unexpected trip that you plan with your significant other to, say, Australia. I'd probably chalk that up as a good one. Or maybe you have a very large unexpected home repair. I'd chalk that one up more as a nuisance. But if you have a larger portfolio than necessary, if you have that buffer built in, it allows you to handle these unexpected expenses in stride without having to adjust your daily life too much in retirement. You might wonder if an emergency fund could serve as your portfolio buffer. While they might share similarities, an emergency fund and a portfolio buffer have distinct purposes. An emergency fund is there to cover your unexpected expenses. It's generally going to be a bit smaller, maybe 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, maybe upwards of 12 to 24 months if you're nearing or at retirement. These funds are going to be kept in cash-like accounts, and especially for retirees, it can serve as cash at the ready to help prevent you from drawing on your portfolio during those severe market downturns. A portfolio buffer, on the other hand, is going to be invested in the same exact way the rest of the portfolio is invested. Maybe that's a series of index funds or however one's portfolio is built. It's not in separate accounts. It's part of the larger portfolio. And also, it tends to be a larger amount, anywhere from 10 to 40% of the total portfolio's value. And the goal is really that it protects the portfolio in the long term. It protects the longevity of the portfolio. Essentially, I think of an emergency fund as your first line of defense, especially against those smaller expenses that might pop up. A portfolio buffer, on the other hand, is for the long term. It's to prevent your portfolio from being depleted of funds over decades. It's not really for those sudden short-term expenses. So yes, an emergency fund and a portfolio buffer work together. They both serve as a safety net, and they have a little bit of overlap, but they are distinctly different. And I think both are necessary for financial security and long-term financial success. Retirement is all about building a stable and a secure foundation. Having both a portfolio buffer and an emergency fund go a long way towards giving you peace of mind in retirement. So I absolutely think you should have a portfolio buffer. Are you aiming to have one before you step away from the workforce? If so, what percentage of your portfolio are you aiming for as a buffer? Share your thoughts in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. Continue making, not continue, start, not continue. Okay. And you continue, not continue. A portfolio. The goal. Whoa. That was awful. Good thing I caught that one. Half the time I don't catch it. I don't know. But you know what throws me off? So we had a holiday on Monday, which meant I didn't get to work on Monday, which meant I didn't get to film on Tuesday. And so now here it is Wednesday, which is not a filming day for me, but it is a filming day this week. I just have a routine and I like to stick to it. I don't like change. Who does? Who does? And if you say you like change, you only like change that works out in your favor. That's all I'm gonna say. It's like people who say they like surprises. No, you don't. You like surprises that are good. Nobody says they like bad surprises.